After the test is over, please go to the examiner to give him or her the certificates and application papers. Those who pass the test shall receive their license at window 20 in A building, along with their ID and application documents. For those who fail, the points of signal item will not be preserved. They must apply for a new driving test at window 22 at A building, at least 7 days after the previous test. Now, we will show you the driving skills required and the criteria for deducting points on the driving test for regular small cars. There are 8 major items in the driving test for regular small cars: reversing the car into the garage, parallel roadside parking, moving forward and backward on a curve, railroad crossing, fork road intersection, stability test in gear switching, going up and down a hill and pedestrian crossing. Please prepare your ID and application papers for review by the invalidator. After confirmation of identity, the examinee shall buckle up their seat belt and wait for the instructions of the invalidator for the driving test. First part: reversing the car into a garage. Reversing still has to be completed, even if a pipe is touched. Points will be deducted only once if there is no repetition. Criteria for deducting points: wheels touching pipes or the car was not reversed into the designated area, 16 points. Second part: parallel roadside parking. Reversing still has to be completed even if a pipe is touched. Points will be deducted only once if there is no repetition. Criteria for deducting points: wheels touching the pipe or the car was not reversed into the designated area, 16 points. Third part: moving forward and backward on a curve. 1. Wheel touching pipes during reversing will not be deducted points, and 1 repetition is allowed. If the pipe is touched when moving forward, 32 points will be deducted. Provided the accumulated deducted points are less than 30 in reversing, the examinee may try again only once. The second try will start from the starting point again. 2. A serial deduction applies if the engine stalls. 3. A deduction of 2 points maximum in parking. Criteria for deducting points: 1. Wheel touching pipes when driving forward, 32 points. 2. Engine stalling or parking, 8 points. Fourth part: railroad crossing. 1. When the alarm bell rings and the red light flashes, the examinee shall stop at the stop line. The front wheel must not go over the stop line. 2. In the event of power failure or breakdown of equipment, such as that the light is not working, the examinee still has to stop and then continue after confirming no trains are coming from either side. Criteria for deducting points: 1. Not stopping the car to check, 32 points. 2. Changing gears or engine stalling on the railroad crossing, 32 points. 3. The front wheel going over the designated area when parking, 32 points. Fifth part: fork road intersection. 1. The examinee has to drive according to the signs. He or she has to stop in front of the stop line when the green light flashes before changing to yellow and then red. The front wheel must not go over the stop line. 2. In the event of power failure or breakdown of equipment, such that the light is not working, the examinee still has to stop and then continue after confirming no vehicles are coming from the two sides. 3. The flashing of the green light is set at 5 seconds. Criteria for deducting points: 1. Going over the stop line under yellow and red lights, 32 points. Sixth part, stability test when gear changing. The examinee has to change to the third gear in order within 45 meters with no improper operations such as engine stalling, touching the pipe, clutch, and accelerator, etc. within that distance. Points will be deducted accordingly. Criteria for deducting points. 1. Unable to change the third gear in order within 45 meters, 16 points. 2. Unable to change the third gear within 45 meters, 16 points. 3. Wheels touching pipes, 32 points. Seventh part, going up and down a hill. The examinee has to drive up a hill according to the rules.
Okay, so what we're going to look at today is the show me tell me questions that they'll ask you at the very start of your driving test. We're going to flip the bonnet up in a moment. I'll show you how to do that, and then we'll look at everything that's under the bonnet and the kind of questions they could ask you about. Okay, so let's start with the bonnet release catch. The bonnet release catch on this particular car is just on the right hand side under the dashboard. You pull that and it'll undo the bonnet. I'll show you. So this is the bonnet release catch under here. All we have to do to undo the bonnet is just to pull that, and that opens the bonnet at the front. We now need to go to the front and flip the bonnet up. So once you've flicked the button inside the latch, what we do is find the bonnet release catch under here, lift the bonnet up, and underneath the bonnet there's this metal stay here. You take this out and put it into the hole that's just inside the bonnet compartment. That then holds it up nice and safe. Okay then, so we've got the bonnet up. That was pretty simple. What have we got then? We've got brake fluid here. Very, very important, your brake fluid. Obviously, if that is at the incorrect level, your brakes might not work. Incredibly dangerous. So always check these things at least once a week. On the side of the bottle, on this tank, you've got a minimum and a maximum. Make sure it's between the two. Okay, it's like a yellowy liquid. It can be a little bit hard to see sometimes, but if you use a torch actually shining in there, makes it so much easier. Next to that, we've got the engine coolant. That stops the car from overheating. There's a minimum maximum on that bottle as well. Keep it between the two levels and it will be fine. The one here is the electric power steering. There's a picture of a steering wheel and a little electric wire underneath it there. Now that won't be asked on your driving test on these show me tell me questions, but it's still good to check it. Check it once a week if it's your own car, and make sure it's between the minimum and the maximum levels on that. Windscreen washer water here, pretty obvious what that is. The water tank for that, like most modern cars, is actually inside the wing of the vehicle. Top it up on a regular basis. You don't want to run out of water on that. Okay, so up to now everything's pretty straightforward under there. We've got the brake fluid. We check that as we've said, make sure it's between the two levels. We've got the engine coolant. Again, very simple, keep it between the two lines and you can't go wrong. The power steering fluid, the one they shouldn't ask you about on the driving test, but again, check it on a regular basis. And then the last one down here was the one for the windscreen washers. Again, you don't want to run out of windscreen washer water, so keep that well topped up. Make sure in winter as well that you've got some antifreeze in there. You don't want that freezing up on you. Now what we're going to look at is how we actually check the oil on the car. Now you have to make sure that the car is level and that the engine is cool. If the car's not level, you'll get a false reading and you're wasting your time if that's the case. You also want to make sure, as I said, that the engine must be cool. If it's not only will you get a false reading, but you'll burn yourself in the process. That's not a win-win, definitely. Okay, so let's have a look what we've got down here. Okay then, so you check the oil with the dipstick. What you do with the dipstick is you pull the dipstick out, you wipe it with a cloth. You put the dipstick back into the same hole it just came out of, take it out and look where the oil line is. The oil line should be somewhere at the bottom of the dipstick between the two markers. If it's midway, fantastic. If it's not, that's when you need to top it up. If you need to top it up, you top it up there. It even says oil on top. Top it up a little bit at a time. It tells you in your handbook what type of oil to use. So that's it basically. Simple checks, things that keep your car running, stop you breaking down, save you a lot of money and a lot of inconvenience. It's also part of the show me, tell me questions that they ask you at the start of your driving test. 2 questions, that's all they're going to ask you. I'll be doing other videos which do show you about things like checking the tyres and other stuff they can ask you in the vehicle. I need to show you how to put this bonnet down. This is how you do it. Put the bonnet release back into its catch, take the bonnet down to arm's length and then just let go of it. Seems cruel but it's kind. What you don't want to do is take the bonnet down to the catch and then push it. Puts dents in your cars and it never looks nice on the bonnet end. So, arm's length, drop. It's as simple as that. Thank you for watching.